tonight, just from your perspective, just what happened in the final 10 games in the third set in particular?
No thoughts, no emotions. Just want to quit right now. That's what the number one tennis player in the world said after walking off the court at Roland Garros on Wednesday. Not a frustrated muttering under her breath. Not a private moment caught on camera. Said directly into a microphone in front of the press with cameras rolling. And the tennis world stopped. Aryna Sabalenka had just lost a match she had every right to win. Against Diana Schneider in the quarterfinals, Sabalenka was cruising. She was in complete control, doing exactly what world number ones are supposed to do, managing the match, staying composed, closing it out. And then she got to the moment where she could serve for the match in the second set. That's where everything unraveled. She couldn't close it. The serve out slipped away. And from that moment forward, something shifted inside her that she simply could not reverse. The third set didn't just go badly. It went historically badly. She lost 12 of the last 13 games. 12 of 13. Think about that. This is a woman who won Indian Wells this year, who backed it up immediately by winning Miami, who has been one of the most dominant forces in women's tennis for the last 2 years. And on this Wednesday afternoon in Paris, she fell apart in a way that didn't look like her at all. By the time she sat down in that press conference chair, she wasn't hiding anything. There was no polished media training on display. There was no, I just have to work harder and come back stronger deflection. She sat there raw, and she said exactly what she felt in that moment. No thoughts, no emotions. Just want to quit right now. And the moment those words hit the internet, every tennis fan on the planet had the same reaction. Some were worried. Some were devastated. Some didn't know how to process it. Because Sabalenka isn't just a great tennis player. She's one of those rare athletes who plays with her entire soul on the surface. You always know where she stands. When she's flying, she's electric. When she's struggling, you feel every single bit of it with her. That's part of why people love watching her. She makes tennis feel human, which is exactly why what Venus Williams said after that press conference hit so differently. Venus was watching everything unfold from the broadcast desk on TNT, and her response wasn't dismissive. It wasn't clinical. She didn't say, well, that's just competitive sports. She said she felt sad. She said she got taken in by Sabalenka's emotions. She had empathy for her. And then she said something that every athlete at every level needs to hear, because it is one of the most honest things you will ever hear about what it actually means to compete. Venus said that the hardest thing in sports isn't losing to someone who outplayed you. It's not getting beat by a better opponent on a given day. You can process that. You can make peace with that. The hardest thing is letting yourself down. When you had the chance, when the match was right there in your hands, and something inside you stopped working the way it needed to, that's the one that keeps you awake at night. That's the one that doesn't leave you alone, because there's no one else to point to. There's no explanation that makes it feel better. It's just you, sitting alone with the knowledge that you were the reason. And Venus knows exactly what that feels like. She's lived it, multiple times, on stages bigger than most athletes will ever see. So, when she speaks about it, it doesn't come across as commentary. It comes across as someone who has carried that same weight and found a way to keep going. She also made a point that got somewhat lost in the emotion of the moment. She said that if you zoom out, any player on tour would take the year Sabalenka has had so far. Indian Wells, Miami, 2 titles before the clay season even started, a number 1 ranking she has held with authority. The loss in Paris is real and it hurts, but it doesn't erase any of that. Sometimes when you're inside the worst moment, the rest of the picture goes completely invisible. And that's where Sabalenka was sitting on Wednesday night. But here's the thing about Aryna Sabalenka. She has never been someone who stays down. By Thursday morning, she was already back. No lengthy disappearance. No extended silence while she processed everything behind closed doors. She posted photos from Roland Garros, and she wrote a caption that said everything that needed to be said. Still love you, Paris. I'll be back. Definitely not quitting. 3 sentences. No drama. No over-explanation. Just clarity. That right there is the difference between a champion having a bad day and someone whose career is in trouble. A champion doesn't need 2 weeks to figure out how they feel. They know. They feel the full weight of the loss. They let themselves feel it completely, and then they make a decision about what comes next. Sabalenka made that decision by the following morning. And what comes next for her is actually a really interesting conversation, because Roland Garros was always going to be her biggest challenge of the year. Clay has historically been her most difficult surface. The fact that she made it to the quarterfinals and was a few games away from the semifinals isn't some embarrassing collapse when you look at it honestly. It stings because of how she lost, not because she had no business being there. Wimbledon is next. Grass suits a different kind of tennis, and Sabalenka has shown repeatedly that she can adapt her game to different surfaces. After Wimbledon, the hard court summer begins. The U.S. Open Series. The stretch of a season where Sabalenka has been absolutely devastating over the past 2 years. If you were betting on where she wins her next Grand Slam title, the hardcourt season is the obvious answer. She came into 2026 with a point to prove after a year that had some incredible highs, but also left some big opportunities on the table. She answered that immediately with back-to-back titles to open the season. One rough loss in Paris doesn't change the trajectory of what this year is shaping up to be for her. There's something important in all of this that tends to get buried whenever a big name has a visible emotional moment. The rawness that Sabalenka showed in that press conference, the tears, the admission that she just wanted to walk away from everything in that moment, that's not weakness. That's what real investment looks like. You cannot care that much and not feel it that deeply when it goes wrong. The players who never show anything, who always give you the composed non-answer, you wonder sometimes whether they actually feel it at all. With Sabalenka, you never have to wonder. She feels every single point, every single match, every single tournament. Venus said she likes that Sabalenka lets people in, lets them be part of her world. That's rare, and it's one of the reasons she has become one of the most compelling figures in the sport right now, beyond just the tennis itself. Paris wasn't her tournament this year. She already knew that the moment she walked off court, but Paris is not the end of her story in 2026. Not even close. She'll be back on a court in a few weeks, and the player who shows up will be hungrier, sharper, and carrying every bit of what happened on Wednesday as fuel.